What is going on, guys? Today we're back with a brand new Discord bot video, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a music bot. This is going to be an updated Discord music bot tutorial. I made a couple actually. A couple years ago. I made one last year, and it's kind of outdated because Erela.js, the library that we used along with the Lavalink server, Erela.js itself actually got a lot of updates. So the old Discord bot music tutorial that I had likely won't work anymore unless if you use a previous version of Erela. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pretty much just go through a lot of the main functionalities of this library, and you guys will be able to understand what you can do with Erela.js. You can understand the capabilities of this library, and you'll also be able to understand how to use Lavalink. Okay, so we're going to go through the setup very, very carefully because I want you guys to be able to understand what it is that you need to do. And if there's any errors that you might run into, feel free to join my Discord server. Okay, the link will be in the description. There's plenty of moderators, there's plenty of voluntary helpers that will help you out with any issue that you might have. All you have to do is just visit one of the help channels and then just drop a message in whatever channel is appropriate. In your guys' case, you would drop it in JavaScript. Anyways, with that being said, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and go over to this link, and I'll leave all the links in the description, don't worry. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and visit github.com/Fred. Hopefully I'm not pronouncing this incorrectly, but I'm not even going to pronounce it because I might probably mispronounce it. But you want to go over to this link, and this is basically the Lavalink GitHub. Okay, and basically what you want to do is, you can read through it if you want, but you want to download the latest version of Lavalink. So what exactly is Lavalink? Okay, well, in my own words, basically the way I see it, it's basically just a server that you run on a computer or your computer. Okay, and what it does is it basically composes a bunch of tracks, okay, that you will search for, and it will basically kind of like compose all of it together and then allow your bot to play music very, very easily. So if you want to read the actual definition, this is standalone audio sending node based on Lava Player and JDA audio. So in short words, it's basically just like an abstraction. So you don't have to manually do all of the custom searching yourself. You don't have to worry about doing anything else with FFmpeg. All you have to do is just download Lavalink, and it'll work just fine. Okay, now obviously more things will be self-explanatory as we actually work with Lavalink, but it's a lot better to use Lavalink because it's a lot easier. Now I will say it's a lot more, I think it's more resource heavy in my opinion, because it does take up at least 1 gig of RAM. At least that's what it says somewhere over here, or from what I've been told by people who have experimented with Lavalink before. Okay, but in general though, it makes making music bots much more easier. A lot of powerful bots such as Fredboat, Dino, I think Groovy. I'm not sure if Groovy uses Lavalink, but a lot of popular bots do use Lavalink. Okay, and yeah, you can read more about Lavalink over here on the GitHub page. I'll leave a link in the description. Now you also want to make sure you have at least Java 11 or greater. If you don't have at least Java 11, for example, if you have Java 8, you're going to get an error, and it's going to say, I think the most recent, this Java jar file or something like that, it was compiled with an older version. So you'll need to make sure you have the latest Java 11 or anything greater. Now, if you read over here, it says Java 14 has other undiagnosed HTTPS problems, so use Java 13. Like I said, you can read all the requirements, and then you can read the versioning policy. And now we also have what's called client libraries. Okay, so let me explain what exactly is the client library. So pretty much, Lavalink itself is just a server. Okay, and in order to actually interact with it, we need a client. Okay, the client itself is basically going to be able to make the connection to the Lavalink server. and it's going to be able to actually connect with it, and it's going to be able to send it requests to search for the song, and it's going to respond with all the results, and then we're going to be able to have the client player play all of that songs for us. Now there's a bunch of different libraries depending on which language you're using. So if you're using let's say if you're using Python, okay, there is a lavalink.py, there's PyLava, there's Magma. If you're using JavaScript, there are plenty of libraries that support JavaScript. So Erela.js is one of them. That's the one that we're going to be using. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and over here, and you can see that this is the, I think, is this the official GitHub? Make sure to double check. I think it is, yeah. Yep. And this is the website, which actually is really nice. It's a lot better than the original one. I can't really remember what the original one looked like, but yeah. All right. So the reason why I'm explaining all this is because I want you guys to understand everything that is going on. So I think I've pretty much explained Lavalink in general and why you should use it. I've explained the requirements. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and download Lavalink. So what you do is you can go over to this releases tab over here, or click on this, and you can just download the jar file. If you want, you can download the source code and compile it yourself into a jar file. You don't really need to do that unless if you're more, advanced, but just download this jar file. Alright, so before we download Lavalink, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my Windows terminal, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically create a project folder for everything. We're only going to be using one directory. So you can see right over here, I'm currently in my documents folder. I'm going to go ahead and type mkdir, and I'm going to simply say Discord music bot. There we go, we just created it. So I'm going to cd into Discord music bot. I'm going to hit tab just to autocomplete that. Alright, there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to just download Lavalink into this folder. You can download it to wherever you want and just move it there. So let me just move this to the other tab. And I'm going to download Lavalink right now. And I'm going to just save it to there. So I already just did that real quick. Now if I type ls, you're going to see that I have this lavalink.jar. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to go ahead and just run this command real quick just to see what happens. So this is going to be java-jar lavalink.jar. And before I continue, let me actually go ahead and show you guys where you can actually download Java. You can actually go over to jdk.java.net and then you can find the different Java versions. Okay, and basically what you want to do is you want to download at least version 11, Java 11 or greater, and you want to download it. And then afterwards, what you want to do is you want to make sure you set up an environment variable. That way the environment variable knows where the Java binaries are located. Because if you don't do that, what's going to happen is if you type Java, it's going to say unrecognized command Java. So you need to set up what's called an environment variable. Okay, if you guys need help with that, like I said, join the server and we'll get you started with that. But once you have Java downloaded, assuming that you have everything already set up, you can go ahead and just skip that part. So if I run this, you're going to see that, let's see what happens. So this is my first time running Lavalink on this computer. So it's going to give me this firewall thing. Let me just allow the access. Okay. Alright, so you see it says Lavalink. It tells you the version. It tells you the build time, master branch, all these things. It tells you JVM 14. So everything works fine. If there are any errors, it would tell you, but there aren't any, as you can see over here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, so what you need to pay close attention to is to see if there are any errors. Okay, it seems like there aren't, which is good. And you also want to pay attention to this line over here. This is the third line from the bottom. So you see it says, basically wherever it says port, started on port. you can see that it started on port 8080, so that's default, and that's okay. But let's say if we wanted to set up a server on a specific port, and you can also have multiple different ports too, like you can have multiple different nodes, okay? What you want to do is you want to have the application.yml file. So it even says it right over here. Put an application.yml file in your working directory example. So what this file is for, the significance of this file, is basically to set up the port, set up the address, and you also want to set up a password too. And you can also set up other things such as logging. You can also set up metrics, and also most importantly is you can also set up sources. So where Lavalink should retrieve the songs from. So YouTube, there's Twitch, there's local. You can see all the source over here. Okay, and there's also other things too, such as YouTube search enabled. We're not going to go through every single thing, but I'm just going to go ahead and just show you the important things that you'll need. So, but just basically copy and paste this whole thing. And I'm going to go ahead, and for now I'm going to exit the Lavalink server. But one thing that I will mention is that you need to make sure you have the Lavalink server running. A lot of people do not leave it running. They close it and then they run their Discord bot, and they wonder why it doesn't work. You need to have both the Lavalink server and the Discord bot running. Okay, so let's create let's see. Let's create a simple file real quick. Alright, so I have my Visual Studio Code text editor. And before we do anything else, first let's just create this application.yml file. So that's a YAML file. Alright, and we're just simply going to just copy all this. Okay, and we're going to paste that in here. Alright, awesome. So yeah, these pound symbols, these are just comments, so you can ignore those. And basically what you want to do is you want to change the port to whatever port you want. You can change it to anything, honestly. I'll just change it to port 9000. You can leave the address alone. This is just the localhost. For the password, so this part is important. Whatever password you have set here is going to be the password you're going to need to set up in the source code to actually connect to the Lavalink server. So I'm just going to simply just say password for now. Password 111. Obviously, you would probably want to use a more secure password. I think that should be it. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Okay, cool. So we're done setting up a Lavalink. Now let's actually make sure this actually works. Let's make sure that it's actually using our application.yml file. You need to also make sure that they're in the same directory, okay? And it even says it in the documentation too. Yep, application.yml file in the working directory. Alright, so let's run this, and we should get, let's see. Yep, started on port 9000. That's good. That means that it's picking up the application.yml file, which is great. Okay, so now that we have Lavalink all set up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just exit it for now, and we're going to go ahead and simply set up our entire project. Okay, because we haven't really set up our Node.js project yet, and we're going to do that right now. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go inside our Windows terminal, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply just type yarn init-y. Now, if you're using npm, you can just do npm init-y, but I prefer using yarn, so let's just use yarn. And it will also generate a package.json file, so don't worry. Okay. What we're going to do next is we're simply going to go ahead and install Erela.js. So you can simply see right over here that we can just either install Erela.js with npm or yarn. Now I'm going to use yarn, obviously, because I just initialized with yarn. So yarn add Erela.js. Okay, there you go. It's installed. And you can see over here on the Erela.js documentation, it does give you a couple of tips on, not tips, but some getting started things that you should do. So it says create the application file, okay, and then run the Lavalink command, or not Lavalink command, run the Lavalink jar file. Alright, so now that we have everything set up, we also need to install Discord.js, so let's not forget that. So let's do yarn add discord.js, and keep in mind this tutorial is going to be done with JavaScript, mostly because I want this to be a very beginner friendly tutorial for people who are familiar with coding but not necessarily familiar with Discord bots. Maybe later I will do a TypeScript version, but it shouldn't be that much different, honestly. Okay, so we've installed Discord.js and we've installed Erela.js. So the next thing that we want to do is let's simply create a source folder, and hopefully this won't have any issues because the lavalink.jar file, actually no, it should be fine. So we're going to create an index.js file inside the source folder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do this. We're going to go ahead and import Discord.js, and we're going to import Erela.js. So const, let's first import Discord.js. So this is importing the entire module, but we only want to get the client. So what this does is it'll destructure the client class from the Discord.js module or namespace. And since we only need this client class, we don't really need anything else. A lot of people, what they do is they also like to do this. They import Discord, and then they create a new client by simply saying const client equals new discord.client. You can do that, but it's really up to preference, really. Alright, and what we're going to do is we're also going to go ahead and let's see, they want us to require Erela.js, and we're going to import the manager. So it's like the same thing with what we're doing with Erela.js, the Erela.js import. So you can import just the manager, since that's likely what we're going to only need temporarily. But you can also just simply import the entire thing, and then if you want to create a manager, you can do, let's see, manager. Something like that. This isn't the way that you would do it according to the example, but you could do something like this, okay? But to save us from having to use Erela.manager, we can just import manager. And then what they do here is, let me explain it to you guys. So what they do here is they pretty much create an instance of the Discord.js client first, and then after they attach the manager instance to the client object. So this is basically good because you don't have to actually worry about figuring out where the manager instance is. It's attached to the client instance, okay? And because JavaScript is dynamic and we can just dynamically add properties to objects, this is perfectly possible, okay? Before we continue with all of this, let me actually go ahead and grab my Discord bot real quick. Hopefully I remember how to do that, because it's been a while, honestly, since I have created a Discord bot. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on new application, and I'll just simply say music bot. Not really the best creative name, but that's fine. Okay, we're going to click on bot, and we're going to click on add bot. Yes, let's do it. Too many users have this username. That's unfortunate. Let's try, let's see, I don't know, DJ music bot. Such originality. Okay, there we go. Alright, so we'll need the bot token. So make sure you keep this a secret. It's fine that I'm showing it to you guys because it's only for tutorial purposes, and I'll be resetting it anyways. So make sure you get the bot token. So let's copy this. And I'm also going to install one more package called .env. You don't have to use this, you can use a JSON file, but .env is a package that will read environment variables for you. So I'm going to create a .env file at the root level of our project. So you can see that it's not inside the source folder, it's actually outside of it, but inside Discord music bot. And I'm simply just going to name this environment variable Discord bot token. And I'm going to give it the value of my bot token. And like I said, you can use a JSON file if you want to. Okay. And I think that's all I'll use for now. And since we're using .env, we need to also require that all at the top and then call the config function. You want to do this all the way on the top as much as you can because you need to load up all the environment variables. That's what the .config function will do. It will load everything up into memory and it'll actually be usable. And how we reference those environment variables is very simple. Let's first create an instance of our client, our Discord.js client, and let's do client.login. Let's call the login method, and we simply just reference the process global object, the global process object dot env the property, and then we want to reference the name of our environment variable, which is called Discord underscore bot underscore token. And there you go. So to test this out, we can just simply register a ready event listener, and let's just see if it works. Discord bot has logged in, and let's test it out. So to test this out, we're going to run our bot, obviously. I'm going to go ahead and set up a simple script just to make things easier. I'm going to set up a start script, so that'll just simply be the node command, and it'll basically run the index.js file that's inside the source folder. Now keep in mind we have to pass in the relative path because the package.json file, we actually need to run the Discord bot from the root level. Okay, so if you're inside the source folder and if you're doing node index.js, this won't work because our .env file is inside the root level. Okay, you generally don't want to put the .env file inside the source folder. I mean, you can, and then you can also run the bot there. But if you get this error, the reason why it's happening is because in order for the environment variables to work, you need to run the script in the same directory where the .env file is. So it's a little bit weird, but just make sure you run the bot inside the root level, okay, where the .env file is. So if I do node source index.js, this will work. See, the Discord bot has logged in. Okay, but I'm going to set up a script so we don't have to keep on writing that over and over again, and it'll just be easier for people who want to code or clone, not code, clone the repository and just run it instantly. Now for dev script, I'm going to set up a nodemon, and that'll just basically be very similar to the node command. A nodemon is a tool that pretty much will detect changes in your source code, and every single time it sees a change, it will restart the entire application with the new changes, so you don't have to keep on restarting your bot manually. Nodemon will take care of that. And just to make things easier, some of you guys might not have nodemon installed. I have it installed globally, but you can also install it locally like this, yarn add -d nodemon. I'm going to install it locally, so that way when you guys clone the repository and install all of the modules, all the dependencies, what will happen is, since you guys don't have it installed globally, it will install locally since we have it listed as a dev dependency right over here, and it'll basically use the local nodemon binary. You can see that inside the .bin folder, which is pretty cool. Okay, that's awesome. And let me move this right over here, just to make things much more organized. So we have our nodemon dependency and we have our dependency over here. Okay, so this is great. So now watch this. I can just do npm run dev, and you can see nodemon runs. If I do npm run start, perfect. Okay, it's good practice to have these start and dev scripts, especially the start script, because that's what cloud platforms like Heroku will look for. It'll look for the start script to run the bot. Okay, but our bot is working just fine. Alright, so let's continue with the rest of the example that Erela.js has provided for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to let's see. Oh wait, I forgot one thing. I forgot to actually add the bot to my server. So let me actually do that real quick. I actually need to create a server as well. So let me do that. Alright, so I have my Discord server. And to actually bring the bot, what you need to do is you need to go to this URL, discord.com/api/auth2/authorize, and you need to get the client ID. To get the client ID, it's right over here. So you click on your application, and then you click on this client. You can just copy it like that right over there. And you want to add it as a query parameter, so !client_ID. I'm assuming you guys already know this already, but I'm just saying it for those people who forgot. And then scope equals bots, and then you can add it to any server you want. So I'm just going to add it to my server real quick. So let's add it to server. Let's authorize, and let's actually look at the server real quick. Authorize, and there we go. The bot is now officially in our server, so now we can actually start playing around with it and writing code to add functionality to it, which is awesome. Okay, so let's go back to the Erela.js documentation, and let's continue with what's going on right now. Okay, so right now our bot works, but we actually have not connected to the Lavalink server just yet. So let's go ahead and look over here. So we created the client already, and we went ahead and we actually just logged it in, but let's go ahead and create the manager as well. So let's do const, not const, client.manager, and we're going to do new manager. And it takes in manager options. So if you want to look more in depth into the manager options, you can just click on the documentation over here. So basically all it does is it takes in a property called nodes, and this property nodes is an array of objects, or I should say node objects, I should say. Let me see, node options, yep, node options object. And like I said, you can have multiple nodes if you want, but for now we're only going to have one. Okay, and you can see over here, it takes in a host, identifier, password, port, retry, etc. We're only going to leave it with host, port, and password for now. So nodes, and it's an array, and we're going to need the host, so that's just going to be localhost. The port needs to be a number. Now you cannot use an environment variable with the port because environment variables will be treated as strings. You could, but you just need to make sure you convert it to a number. But I'm just going to go ahead and just type in port 9000 because that's the port that I used. Okay, remember it needs to match. In the documentation, they're using port 2333, but that's assuming that they're using the same example for the application.yml file. In our case, we changed it to port 9000, so we need to keep it at port 9000. And the password, we also changed it as well, so that was password 111. Yep. All right, there we go. So let's see. So right now, we are getting an error, and that's fine because we're not quite done yet. So what we're missing is the send function. Okay, so it says right over here, a send method to send data to the Discord WebSocket using your library, getting the shard for the guild and sending it. Okay, that makes sense. So we're gonna just do that real quick. So let's see. So basically, send is just going to be a function, and it takes in two parameters. It seems like it takes in the ID, which seems like it's the guild ID, and then a payload. And the payload seems like, the data is, the payload is pretty much just the data. And I think what they do here is, they're just sending it to the WebSocket, basically. So I'm just going to deal with that. So const guild equals client.guilds.cache.get. So this is just going to get the guild. And then if the guild is truthy, we're going to do guild.shard send payload. Okay, So don't worry so much about that part. Now the rest of these things, these are just events that are registered. So whenever the node is connected, it will just say node is connected. If there's an error, it will say there's an error. If a track has started, it will send a message to the text channel. I'm actually trying to see. Oh, it will send it in the channel where you send the command. Okay, I will send it in the channel where you had sent the message to get the bot to join the voice channel. And when the queue ends, it will say queue has ended. Now, if you just copy and paste this, you might not need to really change much. And you don't need to worry so much about it because I kind of already explained to you guys what each one of these events pretty much do. The only thing that you will need to change, I think, is probably nothing. Yeah, you won't need to change anything. Okay? But yeah, everything is pretty much self-explanatory. Hopefully what I said made sense. Okay. It's pretty simple. Like I said, whenever the node is connected, it will say node has connected. Whenever there's an error, it will say this error message. It will go inside this event listener. If the track has started, it's going to send a message to the channel. Okay, and when the player or whenever the queue has ended, it will send this message over here. You'll see what happens when we actually play around with it. Okay, so right now nothing is happening because we don't have a Lavalink running. So I'm going to go ahead and run that real quick. So on Windows terminal, if you hit Alt-Shift-sign, it will open a pane on the bottom, which is going to be very helpful for us. So I'm just going to cd into the Discord music bot. I'm going to run the lavalink.jar file. So that's java-jar, lavalink.jar. Okay, so right now we have ran the Lavalink. We have our bot running. The reason why nothing is happening is because we have already ran our bot already. And let me actually see something real quick. I wonder what the default is for retry amounts. It seems like there is no retry amount option, but basically nothing is going to work because our bot hasn't really actually connected. Let's actually restart our bot and you'll see. Let's see. Maybe we are missing something, though it should. Oh, wait, I forgot one thing. Whoops, my apologies. I completely forgot that we need to go inside the ready event and we need to reference client.manager, and you're not going to have any IntelliSense unfortunately, but you need to call this init, and this init method requires the ID of the bot. Okay, if you get this error, that's because it expects a numeric value. So client.user.id, and there you go. So you can see that right over here. Now if we restart our bot, it says node localhost connected, good. And if you look down here on the Lavalink logs, you can see that it says incoming connection from localhost, okay, and then the port connection successfully established. I think the port itself is the port that it runs with. I think that's the port that Node.js uses, I think. But you can see that it's connected successfully, which is good. Okay, so if you've gone this far, congratulations. The setup is probably the hardest part. Getting to the coding part is probably going to be a lot easier. Okay, so if you've gone up to this part, take a break, give yourself a pat on the back because it is a lot of work to get all of this set up. Especially if you're not really too familiar with this library or coding in general. Okay. So what we're going to do next is let's just continue looking at the rest of the example to see what else we might need or what we might skip. So here we send voice data to Lavalink whenever the bot joins a voice channel to play audio in the channel. So, okay, so basically this is a raw event, and I think what this does is it will just basically update the voice state. So we'll have that there too. Let's not skip that. And ideally, I do, like I said, I do tell people to avoid copying and pasting I mean, it's okay to copy and paste if you actually understand what's going on. Like kind of what I'm doing over here. I'm like reading through everything and I'm understanding what's going on. So it's okay to copy and paste in that situation, and to continue off of it. But don't just copy and paste it and expect it to work the first time, because there might be some things that you're doing wrong. For example, the setup is probably what you might be having trouble with. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and talk about this message event over here. So like I said, I'm going to copy and paste it, but I'm going to explain to you guys what exactly is going on. Okay, and if you've used Erela in the past, this really is not any different compared to previous one. Okay, so we're going to copy and paste all of this. And you can see they have a lot of comments too. So I'm just going to go ahead and just delete this. And we're going to go ahead and just go over here. Okay, so basically, let's see. Let me just read this real quick. This example only works for retrieving tracks using a query, such as Rick Astley, never going to give you up. Okay, so yeah, by default, just to let you guys know, by default, this will retrieve tracks from YouTube. So if you want other sources, you have to enable them in the application.yml file, like right over here. Okay, so yes, this allows you to actually use Spotify tracks. Let's see. If you want to search for tracks, you must provide an object with a query property. Okay, so what they're saying here is that, let's see. Let's search for. Okay, so I think what they're saying here is that with this example, it's only going to work. Let's see. I'm trying to understand what they're saying here. It only works for retrieving tracks using a query, such as this entire thing. But if you want to search for tracks, I think I understand. So basically, I think what they're saying is, if you want to search for multiple tracks, I think you might need to. I think that's why they have this node over here. Okay, and in order to fully understand, we likely will need to step through the code one by one. But anyways, let's go through this code. So basically, what we have here is we're checking to see if the message starts with !play, because that's the command. So the exclamation mark is our prefix. And then right over here, we have client.manager.search. So that's the method. And I'll go to the documentation so you guys can read what it actually does. It's self-explanatory, but you guys should actually read what it does. So we're on the manager. And the method search, so searches the enabled sources based off the URL or the source property. Okay, so yeah, and it returns a search result, and the search result will have these 4 properties. It will, I think, playlist is, yeah, it will say if it's a playlist. It will give you all the tracks, and then it will give you the load type. And I think load type, yeah, it's either a track, playlist, search result, load field, or no matches. Okay. Yeah, so it basically gives some information. So over here we are searching, and you can see over here it will give us, well, the first 2 parameters. The first parameter is the query. Okay, so that's going to be whatever we typed in after, and then the second parameter is the person who has typed that. Who has entered the command. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And then what is returned, like I said, is the search result. An array, or not an array, I think it's, yeah, it's just a search result, and it has these 4 properties. And so let's go ahead and go over here. And so let me go ahead and just do console log res, just to show you guys what actually happens. So I'm going to go ahead and just comment all of this stuff out. And I know a lot of people will be using this example that's from Erela.js, so it makes sense to just use this instead of having to recreate everything and calling it our own. You can also customize it yourself. It's up to you. But like I said, I will explain everything, so don't worry. So let's go ahead and see what happens if I do play. So it says node matches. So let's do play NCS electro. Okay, so you can see that it actually gave us a bunch of results. So that's what the play command does, and actually not the play command. That's what the search method does, as you can see over here. I'm not sure how many it gives us by default. I think it's 10. But you can see we have search for NCS, electro, no copyright sounds, and it gives us all the tracks. Okay, and what you could do is you can display this to the user, okay, if you want, and you can allow them to choose which track they want to play. Okay, so this will give us all of the results, okay, and what happens next is we want to actually create a player. So that's what happens with this code over here. So const player equals client.manager.create, and like I said, if you go over to the documentation, I'm going to keep referencing it. If you go over here, the create method, it says creates a player or returns one if it already exists. So if the player already exists, then it's just going to return that. Okay, so how does it determine whether or not a player has already been created? Well, based off of these properties, you can see that we have the guild. So the guild is basically the guild ID that we need. So that allows us to basically create a unique player for each guild, because your bot might be in multiple different servers, and you can have an individual player for each server, and that's why it makes it much more easier to have queue systems for your music bot. And now you can understand why Erela.js is a very powerful library. Okay. Now the voice channel, this is the voice channel that the bot will be in, okay, that it will play music in. And the text channel is the text channel that you have the commands set up in. I think it's actually the text channel that is referenced of where you actually initialize the player for. So for example, if this is the text channel that I use to get the bot to actually join the channel and create the player, actually, let me actually rephrase that. It's going to create the player first, and then it's going to connect to the voice channel. So since this is the channel that we're using to write the commands, this will be the channel that it will continue looking for messages for, to actually determine whether or not it should skip the queue, stop the player, etc. Okay, so that's what happens here with message.channel.id. That is the channel that we have sent the message in to get the player to create. Okay, cool. So that's not too hard to understand. Now what happens next here is it connects to the voice channel. So what I'm going to do is, you know what I'm going to do? Let me actually console log the player so you can actually see what goes on. So let's do play Elektronomia NCS. I think that's what it was called. It was that NCS song. Okay, so Elektronomia. Oh, that was the artist. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we have an error. It says, can I read property ID of null? So let's see what's going on here. Oh, I think we're not in a voice channel, that's why. Okay, there we go. So, there we go. So the bot just joined. It's not playing anything, but that's because we commented everything out. Okay, so we have the bot searching for songs, and we have the bot connecting to the voice channel after we have created the player, which is good. That is good. Okay, so now what's next is over here, the rest of the code. What it does is it'll add the first track to the queue, so player.queue.add, and it'll basically, what this does over here is it adds the first track that was found from the results. So because remember, tracks, the search result object is an object, and it has this tracked property, and basically it's an array of tracks, okay, and we're basically passing it in here. So this will basically give us the first track. It will play the first track, and then it will send the message to the channel. So you'll see what's going to happen in just a second. But before we do anything, let's actually uncomment out the rest of these. So let's go over what this does. So plays the player, plays the first track in the queue. The if statement is needed, else it will play the current track again. So yes, so if the player is not playing and the player is not paused and the player queue size is truthy, or it's not falsy, so play the player. So basically, if the player is not currently playing a song, if the player is not paused, and if the queue size is not 0, because so basically size is a number, I think, right? Let me actually see. Player dot queue, and then dot size is a number. Yeah, so it's a number. So basically, if it's, let's see, all of these things need to be true in order for the player to play. Okay, but if the player is currently playing, everything will be false. If the player is paused, this will be false. If the queue size is, let's say, 5, for example, I think this will end up being true. And then for playlists, you have to use a slightly different if statement. So yeah, so over here for playlists, we're not going to worry about that, but this itself should do the trick for us. Okay, so hopefully all I just explained to you guys makes sense. I know we haven't really written much of our code, but I thought it'd be worth it to kind of go over the Erela.js example, because I know, like I said, a lot of people will copy and paste it and they will not understand what in the world is going on. So I figured it'd be worth it to explain what this command does. And in the next episode, we're going to actually write our own commands. So don't worry, if you guys haven't really learned anything new, don't worry. I'm pretty sure you guys have learned a lot though, because if you're not familiar with Erela, this will explain, pretty much everything about, the example. Okay, so don't worry if you haven't learned anything outside of the example. We're going to learn a lot more now that we actually understand what's going on. I promise you the other commands are going to be so much easier. Okay, all right, so now let's actually try this out. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh crap, that was loud as hell. You guys won't be able to hear it because I have it muted. I'm going to unmute it, don't worry, so you guys can actually hear it. So let me go ahead and just play this link. So it should just work. Okay, you can see the green circle pop up. Let me actually just lower the volume and let me unmute. Okay, so you can hear this song, Elektronomia, Sky High, is currently playing. I like the song. It's a nice song to listen to. And yeah, it's currently playing. And that is all the code from the Erela.js documentation. I haven't written anything myself, okay? This is all from the Erela.js documentation. Okay, so if you use the code from the Erela.js documentation, this should work, assuming that you have set up everything properly with the application.yml and the Lavalink server. Okay, so you can see that everything works just fine, and we have ourselves our own Discord bot that plays a song. Now, let's say if we want to play other songs, if we want to queue them up, right, you can also do that. Let me actually go ahead and mute this real quick. And let me go ahead and just simply mute my Discord, not my Discord, my desktop audio. Okay, because I want to get another song. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute my audio. Let's unmute this. Okay, so let's say if I want to play another song after, I can do that as well. If I do !play. So yes, you can use, I don't know why I paused for a moment there, that was kind of weird. But yes, if you link direct URLs, it should work. You can also do search, you can also search as well. But let me simply do, let's see, play Elektronomia. What else? What other NCS songs do they have? Limitless. Like, there you go, we can use it again. So yeah, this time I did a search query before I used the URL. I think the URL itself, it actually gets the data itself, so I think it's fine. But yeah, over here I typed in like an actual raw query, and you can see that it's going to queue. So I gotta wait for this to finish playing. I don't know how long this song is. I think it shouldn't be that long. It's going to be about like 2 more minutes, I think. But yeah, we'll wait, don't worry. We can't really change anything in our code just yet because it will restart the bot, so I gotta wait for it. But yeah, you can look over here. If you look in the Lavalink logs, you can see that it says it got request to load identifier. That's the YouTube link. And then, yeah, loaded track Elektronomia Limitless. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to wait for all of this. We're going to wait for the song to finish playing. So that way you guys can see what happens after the first song is done playing. What it will do, by default that is, it will actually play the next song in the queue. So you actually already have a built-in queue system ready. Okay? And that's thanks to this line over here. Okay, because like I said, if you don't have this line, it will basically play the current track again. That's what it says in the comment too. And it makes sense because when you do player.play, this will actually play the current track. Okay? So what we're going to do in future videos, and by future videos I mean the next video, we're going to write out a couple of music commands such as skipping the queue. We're also going to write a command that allows us to get the current track. We're also going to make the search more interactive, so that way we can actually select which song we want to play. Okay, because some search results might be vague. Alright, so let's see what happens. The song's about to end. Okay, there you go. And you can see the next song is currently playing. Okay, so we have finished Sky High, and we are currently playing Limitless by Elektronomia. Okay, and now you can see that all we did was we used the Erela.js documentation, and we have our own music bot that works. Okay, obviously it lacks a lot of functionality, but don't worry, in the next video we're going to write a bunch of simple music commands. We're going to write a skip command, we're going to write a stop command, we're going to write a repeat command to repeat the current track. And I highly encourage you guys to go over to the Erela.js documentation and look at all of the methods they have for the player. So you want to pay attention to, let's see, yeah, the player class. And you want to look at all of the properties, you want to look at all of the methods, and you want to pay close attention to this and think about what each method does, read what it does, and then think about the type of command that you can make based off of these methods. So for example, just to give you guys a little preview, if you wanted to pause the song, what you would do is you would call this pause method. Now, how do we do that? We're going to go ahead and teach you guys that in the next video. So if you guys have made it this far into the video, definitely leave a like, leave a comment, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want. I don't really care, it's up to you. If you guys need any help, like I said, feel free to join my Discord server. The link is in the description. There's lots of people on here that will help you guys out. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys want to support the channel, feel free to join as a member, join my Patreon, feel free to donate. The links are down in the description. It's all up to you. It's not required, but I do really appreciate it. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.